Yo, it's Sunday on Trans Youth Channel. My name is Zach, and this week's topic is role models. Well, mentoring, but I guess role models to a certain extent. So, role models to me are the people I look up to, who I aspire to be like for certain qualities they possess, or that I identify with because of an aspect of their life. For example, I identify with Richard Branson because he's dyslexic and so am I, and yeah, moving on, because me talking about Richard Branson isn't really going to help you guys, which is also mentoring, because that's why a lot of people on this channel and people generally in the trans community are making YouTube videos, as they act like sort of like mentors to viewers watching these videos. So going back to my role models, if you are British or from Australia, you may have heard of the documentary series My Trans Summer, which featured 7 trans people coming together at the weekends over one summer in 2011 to be part of this series where they stayed in this house and just sort of socialised and spoke about sort of their lives and how it was affected being trans, and just it was kind of cool. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you check it out. Like I said, it was a British programme, but it was also aired in Australia. I don't know if it was aired in the US, but if you can watch it, yeah, it's kind of interesting, because it's sort of like the first sort of thing of its kind, really, besides Big Brother, because it's kind of Big Brother-esque. But the people on this show, there were 3 trans guys and 4 trans women, all of different ages, all of different backgrounds, walks of life, different religions. For example, one of the trans guys called Max, he's of Jewish background, and he is quite religious in that sense. So for me that was really cool to see someone in the show who was both trans and religious, because I often feel that that's not shown enough, portrayed enough. And then you've got Lewis, who was sort of like the macho in a way, if you will, sort of tougher, muscular, works out, has a beard, and so I didn't identify with him too much, but I kind of do now, because he and the last trans guy in the show, Fox, they are now making their own documentaries, which are now on YouTube, so check that out, My Generation. And one of their short films was aired on the BBC and is still available on the BBC iPlayer, also called My Generation, so if you're in the UK, check it out. But this guy, who was also working the documentaries, Fox, at the time he was quite early on in his transition. I think he identifies as genderqueer, so it was kind of nice to have this mix of identities and personal beliefs and backgrounds all coming together in one house. And so for that reason I sort of identified with them all at different levels and for different reasons. And then for trans women, and I really identified with one of them. Her name was Sarah, still is Sarah, and she wasn't out at sort of to many people, I don't think, definitely not to her family, so I really connected with her for that reason. And it was sort of the first thing I'd seen on TV that had really shown this sort of topic of gender and trans people, so for me it was really quite fantastic to see this on TV, because it was 2011, so I think I was about 17, I'm 19 now, so that was really cool to see. But other areas where I have role models, sort of possibly more well known, is Lana Wachowski of the Wachowski siblings, directors of The Matrix and more recently Cloud Atlas, and I first saw her, I think, probably in the news when it was announced that she'd, come out as trans. But then I watched her acceptance speech for receiving an HRC award. I saw that on YouTube and literally bawled my eyes out at that. Really, really connected and identified with the stories that she told during her speech about herself. Discovering who she is and why she felt like felt at certain times in her life, and I seriously really connected that, especially when she's telling the story about being at school and lining up, and seriously I just identified with that so much, and I still do. So she's sort of one of the biggest role models I have now, although I totally respect their wish for privacy, and sort of not wanting that sort of famous life. But anyhow, it's one of the biggest role models I have, especially because they're film directors, and that's something I'd like to go into, and I think that's another reason why I identify with Fox and Lewis, because of the gender, but also the filmmaking side of things. But secondly, I just want to talk about role models from real life, and I do think it's important that people aren't just looking up to the people who are in the media and sort of celebrities and that kind of thing, but also the people around us. So obviously there's YouTube, and I've already mentioned YouTube, but it's so fantastic me being on this channel when actually one of my biggest role models was on this channel, Kipling. I used to watch every single one of his videos as soon as they came out. I was like, because those videos were probably one of the earlier videos I started watching, and how I found myself watching this channel was through Kipling's videos. And I identified with him on so many levels, and just loved the way he could easily speak about certain topics, and his use of language and words, and communicating his feelings, and so for those reasons, they are my 3 biggest role models who you guys will possibly know about. But also then I have a role model from my own personal sort of everyday life. Her name is Claire, and she's trans, but she's had, struggled in her early life, and I really respect and admire how she's come to be where she is now, and how she's sort of mentored me. That sounds a bit sort of, the word mentor I'm not too much of a fan of, but I'd say she's definitely mentored me since I was 16, and working out who I am, and just dealing with all my questions that I may have had about being trans, and sort of coming to terms with that. I'm struggling with words here because her as a mentor and as a role model, she has been for such a long time, and she takes time out, and I think that's quite a key thing about role models in your real life, that they take time out and they help you as a person. She's been there right from the start, since I started working everything out. She's been there. Sort of, like I said, answered my questions, helped along the way, and still does. She still does. So often. And really, I don't know how to sum it up, really. But I think that's the important part of being a mentor. That's what you kind of do. So for me, myself being a mentor, I don't consider myself to be a mentor at the moment, because I don't feel sort of at that stage where I can say I'm comfortable totally how I am, and with sort of, I wouldn't say I've fully accepted myself yet, completely. And I think to be a mentor, you kind of need to be sort of further along with that. And actually, I was asked by sort of people at my university, and sort of the group I sort of hang out with in sort of the LGBT sort of crowd, if I wanted to be trans officer, and I turned that role down because I didn't feel I was at a suitable level to sort of help people out. Although I really want to. I feel that my experiences aren't at a level where I could help other people who are also early on like me with things. So I did turn that role down, although I probably will be the LGBT officer, or at least run for that position. So in a way, that's also mentoring, so people can come and talk to me about issues they may have. Be there as, you know, someone to be supportive, or just to listen, or to offer advice, or even a shoulder to cry on, or have a laugh with, because laughing is important too. So yeah, that's my video on role models and mentoring. See you next time. Bye.
Hey guys, so this, of course, is R for Trans Youth. So this week's topic is about trans athletes and sports.